Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here in the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. For this, the first Outdoor Magazine radio show of 2025. A brand new year. What does that mean? I don't know. It means different things to different people. It means different things depending on where you are in your life. What's going on around you, where you are professionally, where you are personally. You know, priorities are going to change. There's a point in your life where work and family have to really take up much of your time, so maybe your outdoor passions take a back seat. Reluctantly, but you got to do what you got to do. I get that. And then as life progresses, maybe slows down, maybe turns a little bit, then you can get more time to spend on your hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping passions. But regardless of where you are in your life, I hope that 2025 is an absolutely great year for you, a productive year for you, a happy year, a fruitful year, all those cliches, just a good year. And I hope you have a chance to get outdoors as much as possible. That's always my goal for a new year, is to get outdoors more. Now, it might be on a windy day. It might be on a golf course this summer. My passion for golf has come back. Still not very good at it, but I sure do enjoy it. And on a windy day when it's too rough to fish, that's not a bad way to be outdoors either. This week here in the studio, I was told never to mention this, but I'm mentioning it anyway. We're doing a little bit of a time shift because of the New Year holiday, New Year's Day behind us, which fell on a Wednesday, and Wednesday is the day that we usually record. We moved the day up a couple of days. So there is a little longer lag between the record time and the broadcast date of this show, which always makes me a little bit nervous for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't know what the weather's going to do. So, as we are sitting here in the studio right now, it rained all day yesterday. The parking lot's flooded. But as I look at the long-term forecast, it looks like it's going to get cold again. Again, the weather roller coaster, the temperature roller coaster, at least from my part of the state, continues. But listen, if you're going to enjoy the outdoors and enjoy the outdoor lifestyle, you just got to roll with it, right? Oh, did you remember to get your Pure Michigan Hunt application in? Right now, some of you are going, oh, darn it. You had planned to do that. Darn it, you didn't get them in there. I did. Multiple applications because I am going to win the Pure Michigan Hunt. I've talked about this before. Sometime I can feel it. And it's the only way I'm ever going to get that Michigan elk tag is through the Pure Michigan Hunt. The winners will be drawn for that hunt in a few weeks, and they will be going Mike A, and then they'll give the last 4 numbers of your phone number. It's going to happen. Are you still deer hunting? Are you taking advantage of the late season opportunities? I am not. My plan is later this week to get out to the lease property and pull one of those primal. We've got a bunch of blinds around this property. Many of them are old blinds that have been there for years and years, and they're very, very cool, and they're full of history, and they're still very functional, though some of them are starting to fall down. Most of them are still quite functional. They keep you out of the weather. They hide you. There was a time you can see where they had wood stoves and all of these things. I can see these guys back there cooking a meal because back then you could bait too, and they got bait stations out there. I can see where it was a very effective setup at one time. Still, even today, as we have the food plots now out in front of them, they're still very effective. But in addition to that, we've set up several tree stands, several of the primal tree stands around the property, and a few of the Wraith 270 see-through ground blinds as well. One of those is in a pretty visible spot. It's on the south end of a food plot, and the landowners, Gene and Pam, walk the property a lot, and I don't want them to have to look at this, even though it's a pretty blind, it's a sharp-looking blind. I don't want to have them spend the next 9 months walking their property looking at that blind right there on one of their walking routes. So I'm going to go out there and pull it. I'm done hunting. I'm done. I did get that nice doe during the bow season. Never saw a deer during gun season, but was able to be a part of quite a few, 4 different deer that were taken by my grandkids when I was out there. So it was good. It was very good. Have you, if you're not deer hunting now, so what have you turned your attention to? Are you rabbit hunting? Or are you waiting for snow? Or is there snow in your part of the state as you're hearing this? Are you squirrel hunting, which is really getting to be a more popular wintertime activity here in Michigan? Or, more likely, if you are hunting at this point, you are predator hunting, either bobcat hunting, coyote hunting, maybe fox, but especially coyotes. It used to be that small game hunting was a big deal in our state. And it's not as big as it used to. Turkey hunting didn't exist. Bear hunting wasn't as big. Deer hunting wasn't as big. But upland bird hunting, especially pheasant hunting, on my side of the state, and small game was a big deal. These days, not so much. And I think that's a mistake. I think we're missing some opportunities here. How many times have you been out on a deer hunt and been surrounded by squirrels? Now, I'm not saying at that point you should drop your bow or drop your rifle and go squirrel hunting, but keep that spot in mind now for after the season. If there were squirrels there during the season, the gun season, the deer season, there are squirrels there now. So maybe go out to that same spot with a 22 or a shotgun and just sit down there and look at the world from a different perspective. My grandpa always said, when I was a kid coming up, he said, if you can sit quietly enough to shoot squirrels, you can sit quietly enough to shoot a deer. Take that one step farther. My dad always said, if you sit in a good spot long enough, you will get a shot at a buck. Now, back then, the bucks we were talking about, different world than today. And back then, you wouldn't dream of shooting a doe. These days, things have changed. Maybe if you're not hunting right now, maybe you are fishing. And again, depending on what Mother Nature does here in the next few days and where you live in this great state will determine what type of fishing you're doing. In the North Country, ice fishing. In the South, still some open water trolling. I was talking to somebody last, who was it? Somebody we had on the show here who specializes in open water fishing, and they had fished open water in Michigan something like 18 months in a row now, and they thought they were going to go for 24. I mean, that's 2 years year-round fishing open water. A couple of dates I want you to keep in mind as we start this new year of 2025. Saturday, March 1st. That is the big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. That is to benefit my church, Trinity Monitor, and our school. It is at the Great Hall in Midland. Tickets will go on sale shortly. As we're sitting here in the studio right now, I'm not quite sure when, but as soon as that is made known, I will post on my Facebook page, and I will talk about it here on the radio show. That is a great event. It has grown tremendously. We give away a lot of cool things, and it's a wonderful night. Second date I want you to keep in mind, and it is a ways down the road, but as you're filling out your 2025 calendar, Friday, July 25th. That is the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing. It'll be at the West Branch Country Club. This is to benefit MUCC's youth camp. Again, way too early to get tickets, but not too early to put it on your calendar. Coming up on this week's radio show, after the break here, Jason Graham of Linwood Beach Marina is going to join me. And I don't know if we're talking open water fishing. I don't know if we're talking ice fishing or what. Then Emil Rousseau of the West Branch Visitors Bureau, a new partner of mine, advertising partner for 2025. I love that part of the state. I spend a fair amount of time in that part of the state, and I'm happy to promote that part of the state. In hour number 2, Jason Michalski of the Michigan Dark House Anglers talking about spearing. Spearing is just a wonderful activity. It's like watching a big screen, real life, real time TV looking into the lake. It's mesmerizing. Then Samantha Courtney from the DNR with this week's Ask Avery question. Why is there the potential for hunters to buy more deer tags than there actually are in the state of Michigan? And in hour number 3, we're talking wintertime predator hunting with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. And we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is mikeaveryoutdoors.com. My email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what's on your mind. Questions, comments, criticisms, things you'd like to talk about, things you're sick of talking about. mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, whether it's ice fishing or open water. Linwood Beach, I say this every week, it's in a wonderful location. It's right there on the west shore of Saginaw Bay. Easy access to the water, easy access to the ice, great facilities, great people. I can't say enough about them. LinwoodBeachMarina.com is the website, LinwoodBeachMarina.com. Now, speaking of those great people, one of the great people at Linwood Beach Marina is Captain Jason Graham of Send It Charters. SendItCharters.com and LinwoodBeachMarina.com, two websites you want to keep in mind for there. I wanted to get Jason on the show this week to talk about early ice fishing, late season open water trolling. I don't know. Let's bring him on to find out. Cap, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing good, but Mother Nature is she doesn't know what's. As we are recording this show right now, I don't know what to expect out there. What's going on at Linwood Beach?
Every day is different. I was looking out the window here a couple days ago, and we had guys, 10, 15 shanties in the marina ice fishing, and now today we can launch boats out of the marina. The ice went away that fast, just overnight, and it's gone. So,
now looking at the long-term forecast, some cold weather is coming back, but I don't know. What do we do? What do we just do? Play it week by week?
Yeah, week by week. I would suggest anybody that's thinking about ice fishing this season, I would get your stuff around. It looks like we're going to get some ice here, mid-January, end of January for Saginaw Bay ice. I know a lot of guys inland waters, inland lakes have been fishing for a couple weeks now. It looks like it's going to be a good season after we get past this warm up here after the first of the year.
I've heard it say on Saginaw Bay at least, if we don't get good ice by the end of January, we're not going to get it. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that somewhat. There's a lot of guys who can fish shore ice, though. You got Palmer Road and Finn Road. You got the Seedling side. You got up there by Pinconning. A lot of guys have been on the shore ice lately. Some perch and walleye have been caught in those areas. But the biggest thing is make sure you got safe ice and watch the winds. If you're on the west shore and you got a west wind, there's a chance you may be going for a ride the other side. That shore ice breaks off in a hurry, and you got to make sure you get your way back to shore before the wind picks up, or better yet, don't go. I mean, that's the biggest thing is go or don't go. But biggest thing I've been seeing lately on Facebook is guys want to check ice conditions. I get it. Best thing, you get a long drive. I get that stuff, but never trust the Facebook guys. Never trust. You got to go out there and spud the ice yourself. The last thing you want to do was, what I said on Facebook was okay. Well, that's the last thing you want to do. You want to spud your way out on this real thin ice and make sure it's good safe when you're out there.
Yeah, I feel like anything I say to the lifelong Saginaw Bay ice fishermen who know that ice inside and out, that falls on deaf ears. That's a different crowd. These are local guys who know the ins and outs. What I like to talk to are the folks coming in from out of the area who might not know the nuances of the bay. Those are the people I don't want to say scared for, but those are the people I get nervous for.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I've already seen several machines go through the shore ice already, and that TK Recovery's been out there several times pulling out machines, and I don't think we've had anywhere near enough ice to put a machine out there yet. Foot traffic in spots, yes, but nothing thick enough for a machine yet.
So what is it about the ice on Saginaw Bay and the wind that say the inland anglers don't have to be concerned about?
Well, the inland lakes are freeze across, so the ice has nowhere to go. The wind will grab it, kind of like a big sail, even though it's flat. The wind will grab it and do a little shove and move it here and there. But on Saginaw Bay, if it's not froze across yet, it's a big skate rink floating across the bay. The wind will grab it, pull it away, and then it'll actually end up on the other side of the bay. Sometimes the wind will go out there halfway, the wind will switch and push you back, and you get fortunate that that's how the crack forms, the big crack. How big is a crack is a big question on Saginaw Bay all the time. But the wind dictates that. If we freeze across, that's when I'll start fishing out there. Is make sure that the wind can't get a hold of it and push it anywhere and move it on you. Yeah,
I hear about that crack all the time, and people jump in the crack. What is that? Is that a pressure ridge, or is that where the ice is cracked previously and blown out, or what?
That is correct. The wind's grabbed it, pushed it. The currents have grabbed it. Right now, we've got a bunch of current coming out of the canal here on the marina that's pushing things away. But it's typically what happens is the wind grabs it. The ice shoves out there will bunk up, and then the wind will grab those ice chunks and move it, push it away, or pull it away, or push it toward shore. If it's you've got an east wind, you have a heave. It might be up. It might come up as 6 inches. It might come up 6 feet. You don't know how much that ice has to go somewhere because all the pressure behind the ice. I remember a couple years ago there was a big chunk of ice on Houghton Lake. And the ice would move so far, it actually moved some houses off foundations. Because once you hit shore, it just kept going, kind of like an inchworm, kind of like a lava flow. And it pushed the houses off the foundations because the wind was pushing it. So it's a funny deal, but it's also a very scary deal too.
You talk about currents under the ice. Now that's not something I would have thought about. Tell me more about that.
A lot of currents, the Saginaw River guys especially. Right now, with the Wixom Dam and the Sanford Dam in operation, we have a lot less current in the Saginaw River than we ever used to. But like on today's, with the rain we had yesterday, it'll create a current and a flow and push and actually melt the ice from the bottom up, from the underside of the ice up, because the current's flowing underneath it. Kind of like ice cubes in your drink. You put ice cube in a drink, eventually it melts down nothing. Well, the movement of that water will melt it faster. So we have a ditch bank here, goes through the marina way, across a little bridge, get the boat ramp. And for the last month, the thing's been froze solid. I got to work this morning, and it's completely running. It looks like a raging river. It looks like something on a whitewater with rapids in it. That's how much the water's moving because of the rain, the current coming off all these fields in the area. All drain. You got to keep in mind this water comes all the way from Clare, Gladwin, Beaverton area, all the way down to Flint. All that rainwater has to go somewhere, and ends up going into tributaries and turns into the Saginaw River to dump into Saginaw Bay.
So even in good, all right, let's consider if you get good ice conditions and you're out there a ways, and you still get some current out there, right? I mean, you could put your bait down, and even if your ice is locked in, doesn't that current move those baits once in a while? Is that good or is that bad?
It does, absolutely. It moves it for the good. Two things that scares me. One is you get current, and actually what's going to happen is it's going to melt the ice from the underside up. The other thing is if that bait's moving, it might not be the bait, it might be the ice moving. It's actually you moving. The ice, the flow you're on is actually moving out. Yeah. And I've seen that where guys sitting in there, all of a sudden their line's on one side of the hole and they can't figure out what's going on. Well, you're on an ice bowl and you're moving. Yeah. So the water's actually staying still, but the ice is moving.
So you're one of those guys, you're going to wait until you're sure it's good and safe to get out there.
Absolutely, especially if we have customers involved. It's the last thing I worry about is putting a customer in harm's way of any time. I can't chance that. It's not worth it. It's just a fish. It's a good time, but it's just a fish. We can catch them in the summertime through a boat, not a big deal, but I want to make sure we have good, solid ice if I'm going to run machines out with customers and have a safe day for sure.
So you do take customers out on the ice in the wintertime?
I do. When we have ice, I do, yes.
Yeah.
The last couple seasons, I haven't had a chance to because there's been no ice, and I will not chance it for anybody. It's not worth it. A fun trip, one thing, but not taking customers out where they've never been out there, or they don't know the lay of the land or how anything works. It's just not worth it to me as a charter captain I am.
Well, and that's probably the people who book you, right? Folks from outside the area who don't have an idea what's going on, who want to learn about Saginaw Bay wintertime ice fishing.
That is correct. I get a lot of calls. I get a lot of calls just daily about checking the ice too. The name is out there enough with Linwood Beach Marina. We get probably, I'm going to say, anywhere from 10 to 25 calls a day. How's the ice? How's the ice? How's the weather? That's a good thing to do. Is we get those calls to double check that kind of stuff as far as being safe, a place to launch. I also get the same calls personally with customers that have been out with me in the past and say, hey, when can we go? When can we go? We got our stuff ready to go. And say, well, guys, we don't have any ice. We can't go.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22 both ways, but you want to make sure your customers are safe, and make sure the people are safe. It's not worth anybody's time to go catch a couple walleye and put our first responders and Coast Guard in harm's way just because we want to go out and catch and fish.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that, Jason. I couldn't agree more with that. I might be partly responsible for you guys getting calls about ice conditions, though, because I have said in the past, look, if you're from outside the area and you want to know what's going on, get in touch with the folks at Linwood Beach Marina. Does that put you in a bad spot then?
It doesn't. It gives us, an opportunity to talk to customers and let them know we're available to give information. I will not give ice thickness. I will not give a safe ice report. I will let them know what is out there. We don't want to be liable per se to say, hey, there's 10 inches of ice, go for it. We will not do that. But what we'll do is we'll tell you, hey, there's guys in marina fishing, there's guys getting out, check your ice, check your stuff, check your equipment. Here's a contact number. If you get in trouble, give us a call. But as far as telling somebody it's safe, that's the last thing I want to do is actually give out false information and have some of a liability because someone through the ice because they weren't paying attention and went through a pressure area, or they went through one of our, we have some water pumps running right now, some ice heaters to keep some of the docks thawed out for no sort of dock damage in the wintertime. So as far as giving a report, we'll say, hey, there's guys fishing, there's guys checking out. But as far as a good ice report, it's hard to do and then be not liable for that information.
Sure. Speaking of docks and ice, now your floating docks, do you just let them go with the ice and with the water up and down? Are they fine all winter long?
Yeah, so we have wings. So we have the main dock that stays stationary all winter long, not a big deal. We take off the U-bolts to make sure the dock's can raise up and down and shift if they want to. But all the wings that the boats actually are tied to, those all come off in the fall. Typically we try to do it before we get all the ice in. There's a couple years, we've had lots of boat traffic, and then we didn't have time to have to chip a little ice to get them out. But the wings are all out now, stacked up, they're out of the way. The two main floating docks are there. We can still tie boats up to them if we have to if there's no ice. One thing we do is we don't recommend anybody walking on them because most guys have creepers on, and now we have their creepers in a poly dock, and now you got creeper marks in it. So we'll actually block off the docks come ice fishing time, but if there's boats around, we get boats to them still. We'll leave those docks available for boats.
The work never ends there at Linwood Beach Marina, does it?
Never. It's 7 days a week, year-round. Whether it's fishing or duck season or spring getting the boats in the water, fall getting their boats out of the water, or summertime or holiday weekends. It's a 24/7 operation, and we're glad to have it.
We're talking with Jason Graham, Captain Jason Graham of Send It Charters and Linwood Beach Marina. The website for Linwood Beach is linwoodbeachmarina.com, linwoodbeachmarina.com. Jason, Send It Charters is senditcharters.com, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Senditcharters.com. Hang tight, Jason. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. I want to talk more about this when we come back about, let's talk a little open water fishing. We're talking with Captain Jason Graham. One of the, I tell you what, this guy has really come on and become known as one of the most respected captains on the bay because he continues to innovate, experiment, and come up with new ways to catch fish. And I'm talking primarily open water fishing here now, and fine-tune the techniques that are already out there. A lot of us get in this rut where it's the same thing day after day after day. Well, Jason Graham will take that we're doing day after day, and he'll tweak it, he'll improve on it, he'll make it better, and he'll come back to the marina at the end of the day with a lot more fish than a lot of other people. Captain Jason Graham of Send It Charters, senditcharters.com, and Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK, that's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Killer Food Plots. Now, look, I know you're not putting in food plots right now, but you might be wrapping up your late doe season hunting over food plots. And as you look forward to the springtime and putting in those plots, I would recommend that you give a Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots a good, solid look. They have great products, great people, great resources. Go to the website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com to start checking out what they might have for you this spring. Right now, though, we're talking about fishing opportunities on Saginaw Bay with Captain Jason Graham of Sunday Charters and Linwood Beach Marina. Cap, before the break, you were talking about the folks, when there is ice, who are fishing in the marina. What are they fishing for in there?
A lot of times it's just going to be panfish. A few pike will be caught on here, a few walleye get caught on here. It's one of the things where, hey, you know what, we want to get out. You know, there's a holiday break here going on with Christmas and New Year's, and people just want to go fishing. Been a couple seasons since guys we actually used shanties that were brand new, for gifts the last couple of years. So, but a lot of panfish. I have seen some guys catch some good sized perch out of here. All depends where you're at. There's a lot of different holes that can go around, and as long as you're safe and careful. But there's an opportunity to fish anyway, and not get out on the main lake where you have to worry about the wind and the thin ice, stuff like that.
And how do they get access to the ice right there in the marina? Is there one route you want people to take, or wherever they can?
That is correct. The only place we can access the ice is on the boat ramp. So walk down the boat ramp. We have a sign here, just like you would come in to pay your $10 launch pass. We have a $5 parking fee that we charge at the marina. But you can walk on the ice, the ramp, whether it's by sled, by foot, doesn't matter. We can't use the docks or rocks to access the ice. We have to walk on the boat ramp. So
gotcha. No, that makes complete sense. So weather permitting, you will, like right now as we're recording this show, and we are recording a little early this week, could you launch a boat there right now?
As of today, yes. The downfall is we got some high winds. I had actually had a trip scheduled for yesterday. We had some open water yesterday, but with a northeast wind, my fear was the ice that got pushed out with a hard southwest wind was going to push back in and get us locked in where we couldn't get back to shore. So I actually had a trip scheduled to try to get out yesterday and could not make it. Just that call that, I'd rather be safe than sorry. The fish are snapping and biting good, but, I don't want to get out there and then, like I said, get our Coast Guard or first responders, involved to get me back to shore just because I had some customers to go fishing.
Sure.
We canceled and we're going to wait till spring or thick ice. My customers decided that they'll go ice fish if we get thick ice, so we'll do that instead. Well,
before the ice came in, though, the fish were on fire, weren't they?
They were. They were biting good. Lots of good catches, lots of big fish. I've seen several. I had one that was actually a customer had an 11-pounder. I had another boat that I know had a 13-pounder. Lots of fish, over 10 pounds being caught. And it was a phenomenal season when we could get out. We had a lot of blow days, a lot of days we couldn't get out. It's kind of hit and miss. We had some cold days during hunting season. It would make a little ice, couldn't get out. And then when it was nice out, nice sunny skies, the wind was blowing so hard you couldn't fish anyway. So that's Mother Nature for you.
That is Mother Nature. All right, so let's look forward to ice fishing. If you are able to get out there, how do your trips work with your clients? Do they bring their own sled, their own quad? Logistics, please.
I do both. I have opportunity to take 3 people at a time. I run 2 sleds, 2 shanties, responsible for all the gear, tackle, bait. You show up with your snowmobile outfit, your hats and gloves, warm clothes, a helmet, and I'll provide everything else. I'll also provide a trip where you follow me out. Have a fee for that, of course, but it's one of them deals where I'm going to go out and show you the area, show you the fish, show you how I do it, and at that point in time, you're on your own, because tomorrow you're going to go out and do it by yourself because you have my waypoints from the day before. So, but I will do a follow-out. We'll do a safety thing where I'll do the leading, and my customers will follow me out knowing there's a safe path to travel up behind me, and I'll be responsible for them from the time we leave to the time we get back.
How does that work? Both in the summertime and the winter, you take out clients. They've got the GPS, they got their phone in their pocket, so they know exactly what your waypoints are. Yep. And they come out the next day and fish them. How is that looked at?
Well, there's really nothing you can do about it. I mean, the difference being is there's a lot of techniques involved to make those fish bite, whether it's the depth, the speed, the color. There's all kinds of things to make that area good. And the other thing about it is those fish might not be there the next day. with winds and currents, they could be 2 miles east, 2 miles west, 9 miles north. You never know where those fish are going to be. But a lot of the techniques I will teach my customers on board, even if they have a GPS, and that's part of the deal, is showing them how to fish as well. And I have no problem with that. But it's a catch-22 because those customers will be there the next day in their own boat, but that's part of the deal.
Yep.
They're paying for a service to learn how to fish, and I'm perfectly okay with that. That's great.
Well, and
learn. And get more information and keep going.
And you say learn. You love to teach. As I said before the break,
I do.
You are one of those guys, Jason, who are really is best known for experimenting, tweaking things, and finding your own way to do things. And you've become very successful at it. So congrats.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Jason Graham, listen, I'm going to let you go. We will keep an eye on the weather. We will keep an eye on the ice conditions. If somebody wants to learn more, they can get in touch with Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com, and maybe Captain Jason Graham himself will be answering the phone. Thanks, Cap. Have a good day. We'll talk again.
You too. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Captain Jason Graham of Send It Charters, senditcharters.com. He works out of the Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com. I've worked very closely with the folks at Linwood Beach Marina now for the past several years. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict that one of our items at our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction will be a 2025 launch pass from the folks at Linwood Beach Marina. Now, if they decide they don't want to do it, I just bought myself a launch pass for Linwood Beach Marina. I suspect they will. We will take a break. When we come back, Emil Rousseau of the West Branch Visitors Bureau right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW 1400 AM. I want to talk now for a couple of minutes with a guy I've known for a long time. His name is Emil Rousseau. I have known Emil from my relationship with the Forward Corporation. Emil is the manager of the Lumberjack Lodge. We've had many Wednesday night lives at the Lumberjack Restaurant. The Lumberjack Lodge was our base of operations for the first annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing. They have recently remodeled. It's a great place to go. But I'm asking Emil today to put on a different hat, and that is the hat he wears for the West Branch Visitors Bureau, because now starting in 2025, West Branch Visitors Bureau is now a partner of mine. I am very pleased and happy and proud to promote that part of the state. I love that part of the state, and there's a lot to offer. And Emil, I would suspect you probably agree with most of what I just said.
Mike, I agree with you 100%. The biggest thing is there's so much about West Branch that people just don't know. You get past those agricultural fields in the Tri-Cities and whatnot, you start getting into those woods, and, next thing you know, you come over this hill and, wow, there's West Branch. And a lot of people, West Branch is this little sleepy town, which it is. We actually celebrate that as our little piece of small town America because you can still walk our downtown streets. You still go in there and meet the store owners or the chef who owns the business come out and talk to you. So you can get a little bit of that nostalgia when you come to West Branch as well.
It is an interesting part of the state, and you guys play very heavily on your natural resources, hunting and lakes, even golf courses, facilities, and you love this history there. Like at the Lumberjack itself, the history of the logging era, you like to tie into that tradition, don't you?
It's all about tradition. It's going back to yesteryear. So many times, especially in the hotels and whatnot, we hear this story about we came here because our parents brought us here, or the grandparents are bringing their grandchildren up here because that's what happened to them when they were young. So and then they go hit some of the sites, and a lot of those are maybe not well known, like the Ogemaw Nature Park, where people, they'll flock there during fawning season to watch the new fawns being born, or late August when the bucks are starting to rub their horns and come out and really show off a little bit. to the girls, or even the Rifle River Recreation Area, to the north of the county. They have so many lakes. The brown trout fish there, most people don't know a lot about it, but the discovery is endless. We have lakes that have been stocked with muskie. We have trout lakes. We have the Rifle River Recreation Area, which has so many tributaries. You'd be surprised how many brook trout you can catch in just a small stream that you would never guess.
And I bet your snowmobile trails are pretty green or brown right now, but you did get an early start to the season there for a few days, didn't you?
Boy, they tease us like crazy. Mother Nature, is a jokester at times because she'll get you all ready and pumped up. And one of the biggest things that, we brag about in Ogemaw County is that our snowmobile club, the Ogemaw Snowmobile and Trail Club, they've won Trail Club of the Year for the last 5 years, 5 years out of the last 10. So what they do very well. And the people that come up who've never rode them, those are the people that go on and tell our story. These guys do a lot of work, but it's community-based. People are always pitching in. Even people that don't live here that might just be summertime people will come up and ask if they can join in, be part of it, because it is such a great experience to hit those trails. You see a ton of wildlife, everything from, we've seen a lot of red fox lately, which is amazing because they're just gorgeous animals. But, we have gray fox in the area. We have so much wildlife when you hit those trails, and that's what we tell people, slow down a little bit, ride right, and enjoy the scenery because you'll miss so much by just jamming through them.
Who are you trying to attract? Is it people coming from the south? You want them to stop there in West Branch and Ogemaw County before they keep going north? Is that the target?
It pretty much is. We're located right on I-75, so we're halfway between Detroit and Mackinac. A lot of people will stop here just to avoid the high prices of Mackinac City as they're going north, or they'll use it as a general meeting place, especially Canadian. Some people will come from Sault Ste. Marie, from the Port Huron and Sanilac areas. So we are really uniquely located just to be that meeting point, out of the Tri-Cities. So many people will come up as a little retreat to where, you feel a million miles away, but you can get back to the office if you need to, or you can get back home if there's a situation at home. But coming up here and spending a few days, you're very accessible to your home, but you still feel a million miles away.
A million miles away. I love that slogan. Emil, I look forward to working very closely with you on this, and of course putting your forward hat back on. We will be doing some Wednesday night lives at the Lumberjack this year, and with your permission, the Lumberjack will be our base of operations for the golf outing as well, if you don't mind.
Oh, 100%. And the beautiful thing about the Lumberjack is we are now morphing into more of a local and regional cuisine there. We just made a deal with Ogemaw Pure Beef to bring some of their product in. We're using a lot of Great Lakes fish, the Great Lakes cheeses and Michigan poultry.
Perfect.
So you'd be surprised as we start making these changes and our unique offerings. But
gotta let you go, Emil. I gotta let you go, but nothing you can do would surprise me. Emil Rousseau of the West Branch the website, visit westbranch.com. West Branch Visitors Bureau. Visit westbranch.com. Thanks, Emil.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations during this first weekend of 2025. How long will it be before you are used to writing 2025? For me, it'll be a while. Charlie Wood, who's in the studio, and I were just talking about that. What a strange thing that is, especially when you're like in my case. I mean, I remember the 70s. I actually remember the 60s. So 2025 seems like a look into the future. I'm still waiting for the flying cars. I would strongly encourage you, if you can, to listen to the broadcast version of the radio show. This show is designed, it is produced, it is distributed, it is recorded as a radio show to be sent out to our more than 30 radio stations here in the great state of Michigan. That's why I call it the Outdoor Magazine Radio Show. And I think that's the best way to listen to the program, if you can, is on your local radio station. If for no other reason, then, the radio stations get the content of the show before the podcast version is uploaded. Now, it's the same content, but the radio stations get it first. If you can't listen to Outdoor Magazine Radio on your local radio station, which is the way it's designed to be, if your local radio station doesn't carry all 3 hours, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the signal, the broadcast footprint, isn't it nice to know that there is a podcast version of the show that is available? Podcasting is an interesting critter, isn't it? It is changing the way we consume media. That's why you will see a lot of broadcasters doing podcasts as well. The podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine Radio Show is available on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page and many, many other places as well. From Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, Deezer, Odyssey, YouTube, everywhere. Honestly, I think everywhere that you can get a podcast, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine Radio Show. I also do podcasts, by the way, for some of my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, QUEST, and Primal Outdoors as well. Regardless, though, of how you are hearing my voice, when you are hearing it, I do appreciate it. I've been doing this a long time. Here in this studio, what is this now, Charlie? January is 20 years in this studio? 20 years here at WSTW in Saginaw, and many years before that from various studios around the state. So a long time. I have no plans to retire, no plans to quit. As I have learned very vividly, though, my plans are not God's plans. As long as He allows me to do this, I will continue to do this with no end in sight. And I could not do it without your support. So thank you so very much. I also couldn't do it without the folks I have on the show. Now, this is a 3-hour show. And if I was to try to fill all 3 hours by myself, it would be a pretty boring show. I don't have that much knowledge. I don't have that many stories. But I know who to reach out to. I know the people that are involved in the outdoor scene here in Michigan, including Jason Michalski, who is an avid spear fisherman and just happens to be president of the Michigan Dark House Anglers. Their website, mi-darkhouse.org, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Jason, welcome back. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Mike?
You know, I'm doing great, but Mother Nature, I don't know what she's trying to throw at us this winter.
Yeah, it's been a rough start. We got out in the ice, spearing a few times, and with this weather, coming up, the ice is getting a little bit sketchy. There's a few spots. I hear there's still, 4 or 5 inches out there, but I would imagine right now, I haven't been out in the last few days, but the water's got to be getting pretty dirty, pretty cloudy from the runoff.
Yeah. The looking at the long-term forecast, there is some good cold weather coming in. But like everything we do in the outdoors, we are always at the mercy of Mother Nature.
Right. Yeah. It's with this cold weather coming. Hopefully we can be back on the ice. Maybe by next weekend or the following week in most places. The big one's going to be, getting the water to clear up so you can see in the water to spear. Because if you can't see the fish, it's pretty hard to spear them.
Yeah, that's when I think about that, that makes complete sense. And I hadn't even thought about that, Jason, was the runoff. I think about it for, open water trolling, but I hadn't thought about it for spearing.
Yeah, and another big one nobody thinks about is when you get these weird years where it freezes and thaws, there's no snow cover, and the sunlight penetrates, and all that algae and everything that blooms all comes at the top of the ice. and there's times you can't see anything, and you take a scoop or something, or your spear, and you push it around the hole, and the hole clears up, and then it fills back in. It makes it really tough, too.
You got a lot of things working against you guys.
Yeah, and then, Michigan and everything's swampy, so you get into these cedar areas of the tannin and staining, and some of these lakes are never spearable. So, I mean, there's a small majority of lakes that are actually perfect conditions for spearing all the time.
Yet, the tradition of spearing goes back in our state for generations.
Right. Yeah, you can, and that's a good thing about spearing is you can find equipment and still use equipment that your grandfather used, or your dad used, or your great-grandfather even used. The stuff, it just never goes out of style. It's not like, a brand new GPS or a depth finder, or something where it's out of date in a couple of years and you're trying to upgrade your equipment or electronics. The stuff is always usable. People use old ice saws, old decoys, old spears. It's still relevant today, just like it was back then.
Thank you for bringing that up. It is one of the few things left in the outdoors that technology hasn't taken over.
No, and that's the good thing about it is you can still, with some technical knowledge, you can still build pretty much everything yourself you need for spearing, or have somebody else help you build it. I mean, you can build your dark house, permanent shanties like everybody used to have. You can build your spear. You can build your own decoy. There's not really much you really got to get, or maybe some line, some terminal tackle and stuff, but you can pretty much build everything you need.
And I would think it would be very cool to be able to use a spear that your granddad or great-granddad used. How cool is that?
Yeah, and actually my first spear that I got, my grandpa gave it to me. It was one that his neighbor gave him years ago, like probably in the early 60s. He gave him, and he had it just kind of laying around, never used it much. And I use it quite a bit, and I still use it. It's a smaller spear. That's actually a perch herring spear, but I use it on no size limit lakes for smaller pike.
You mentioned shanty, too. These days, I would suggest I suspect that most of the southern Michigan spear fishermen use portable pop-up shanties because you don't know where you're going to be, right? You're following the ice?
Yeah, and I would say the vast majority of the guys now, even in the northern areas of the state, they're still using pop-ups, and we use the hub-style shanties. And I think that brought spearing back a lot because you don't have to upkeep a permanent shanty. You don't have to drag it out. You don't have to have good ice, maintain it. A permanent shanty freezes in if you're not maintaining it, on a regular basis. But you can be a little more mobile, pop up a shanty. In a standard 3-eye is 6x6. And then there's some bigger shanties now that don't take much to pop up, and they're, 8x8, 10x10. You can have something fairly large that's really light.
So what do you need to go spearing? You don't actually, do you need a shanty, or could you get by without it?
I would say you need a shanty. I mean, if you see some of the pictures of the olden days where they show Native Americans or settlers or something with a blanket over their head, I mean, you could do that if you really wanted to go back, but I don't think anybody really wants to do that.
Yeah.
So you basically got to have a shanty, something dark to block the light out, something quiet so you can see the fish come in and you can get a good throw at them.
So that's what and the term dark house, that's what the shanty does. It makes it dark where you are so you can see into the water, which ends up looking like a real-life giant screen TV set.
Yeah, we basically call it, our big screen TV. You want the light to reflect off the bottom and come back in, light it up so you can see in the hole. When the water's a little dirty or dark, if we got a dark bottom, a lot of guys put eggshells down. Noodles work well. They use potato slices, and that works pretty well too. Corn, everything just to kind of reflect that light, shine back, get the outline of a fish. Really helps.
So you got a shanty over the top of you. You obviously need a spear. What else?
Yeah, and then a decoy is basically you're probably one of your most important things besides the spear. And decoys, you can buy decoys. A lot of really talented artists that make decoys. We have a show in Cadillac we go to every year in September. You can buy decoys there, and they have one in December. And there's a lot of them you can order. I hand make decoys. A lot of guys hand make their own decoys, but you don't really need a wooden decoy, or they make plastic and resin now. A lot of guys start out, we use spoons. You can take the hooks off, jig a spoon. I used to use banjo minnows without a hook, and swim them up, and the fish would chase them in. golf ball teasers. Guys are painting golf balls red and white now and spinning them on ornament spinners. And the fish will come in and stare at them.
Jason, hang tight. I have a lot more questions for you. We're talking with Jason Michalski, who is the president of the Michigan Dark House Anglers. Their website, mi-darkhouse.org, mi-darkhouse.org. It is truly a tradition, spearing fish that goes back generations here in our state. At one time, I was afraid that it was going to go away, that nobody was going to still be doing it. But the Michigan Dark House Anglers are doing a great job of keeping it alive and promoting it and encouraging others to get involved. All they need is ice. Just this little thing, three-letter word, ice, I-C. That's all they need. We'll talk more with Jason after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to WDMJ in Marquette at 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the company that makes a product that makes this sound. Avery, what is that sound? I'll give it to you again, just so you know. Here it is. What do you think that sound is? Well, if you guessed the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open, you are exactly correct. I carry a Rapid River knife with me all the time. I think a knife is one of the most valuable tools that any person who loves the outdoors can have. You carry it with you daily. You use it daily. Sometimes it is to field dress an animal. Sometimes it's to clean fish. Some days it's just to open a package from Amazon, but I use this thing every day. As long as you're using a knife, why not use a knife from Craftsman in Michigan's Upper Peninsula? Rapid River knives are handmade. They have a lifetime guarantee. If something goes wrong, they will repair or replace the knife. You can send your knife back there anytime or take it to the showroom. They will refurbish it, buff it up, and sharpen it so it's like new. Go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. Use the promo code Avery10. Get 10% off your order. Or better yet, go to the showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River. Stop in, check it out. It's wonderful. You can use the promo code Avery10 there as well. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. Just a beautiful, beautiful product made by Craftsman in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. Promo code Avery10. Talking right now about spearing here in our great state of Michigan with Jason Michalski, who is the president of the Michigan Dark House Anglers. Jason, I think it's very cool, this tradition we have of spearing here in Michigan, and you guys at the Dark House Anglers are doing your best to keep it going, aren't you?
Yeah, we try really hard. We try to, go to all the shows and make ourselves present, in online forums or answer any questions anybody has. And if you go to the page and anybody has any questions, they can message me and I'll answer them. I talk to guys sometimes for hours. My wife will be, hey, what are you doing? I'm talking to somebody I just met online, and we're, 20 stories deep, and here we are, half the night.
You see, you talk about these shows. Do you guys go to these, like the Ultimate Fishing Show and Outdoor Ram and all that? Do you go to those shows?
We've been talking about it, but we don't. We've gone to, like, Muskegon's got, like, youth days. We've done stuff like that, giveaways. But the Great Lakes Fish Decoy Association, they put on the world champion, carvers competition, and we go to that. They have a decoy show at Cadillac that I was talking about. But it's one of the Minnesota has a lot of shows, and so Michigan we're trying to build more decoy and spear shows, just a place for somebody to go show off their talent, and they have competitions so you can swim the best decoy, who can paint the best, who can build the best, folk art decoy, fancy paint or basic worker decoys. There's all kinds of different categories for everybody.
It sounds like the decoy, though, is the workhorse of this whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because you can get as fancy and as plain as you want, but if you're a decoy, you got to have a decoy that swims nice and smooth in most cases. Some days you can get away with one that, maybe just sits there and the fish will come into them. But yeah, the decoy is what you're looking at all day when you're bored. I mean, you're racing that thing around the hole. There's some guys that never ever let that decoy sit because they're always bored. They get playing with them in between fish. So decoy is what you're staring at all day. That's like your focal point. You're staring at that big screen TV down there, waiting for a fish to come in.
And you lift the decoy, and ideally it does a circle, right, or a couple of circles.
Yeah, ideally, I like when I carve mine, I like about a 4-foot radius. When I give it a pull, I could at least do one spin and kind of come back to where it started. A nice smooth glide without picking up too much in the water. You want to just kind of glide around, kind of like a jig and repel almost, or like the old airplane jigs guys use for pike and lake trout, similar to that style.
And do the fish generally come in and hit this when it's moving or when it's stationary?
I would say the smaller fish when it's moving. Some day, it's like anything else, trolling or anything else, you got to figure out the right presentation. Some days they want to just sit there, so they want to move them, but the smaller fish generally are more aggressive, and they'll ambush, just slam, almost rip it out of your hand, take off, maybe circle back. All the bigger fish I've ever got, maybe trophy class, over 40 or close to 40 and upper 30s, a lot of them come in after you swim and you let it sit. They'll sneak in real slow and look at it. They're just curious. And that's the idea behind a decoy. You don't really want them coming in fast and slamming it. You want them to come in slow to give you a nice presentation so you can slide the spear in slow when they're focused on it, so they don't see you coming.
So they come in slow, ideally. They give you a chance to take a look at the fish, but I got to believe your adrenaline is starting to pump at that point too.
Yeah, it's like bow hunting a trophy whitetail. When a big fish comes in, you see the bigger pike get a big flat head and they got flat across their back, and they get like, you can almost see their belly sticking out around the sides. And then you get a big shovel head coming in. I mean, you just start shaking. And a lot of guys after they throw, they're just shaking. Mike Holmes, their ex-president of the Dark Association, he's still a real good friend of ours, and we talk to him a lot. He's got a buddy he spears with. Every time he spears a big fish, he starts gagging. And he almost to the point he throws up. And Mike's got videos of him doing it, and he's laughing at him. And the guy's outside of their stand, he's just gagging.
And he's probably speared hundreds of fish.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, adrenaline, it's just that, like you're shooting a monster whitetail or, big turkey or whatever. You get that adrenaline rush and you're shaking, and that's the, the addiction part of it. The fact you can do something, fool a fish, work with it to react, like calling turkeys and they're calling back to you, when you're working the fish and getting it to come in, it's just exciting.
Is it pike only that you spear, Jason?
That I would say the majority in Michigan. You can spear muskie here on limited waters, and now the sizes keep getting bigger, so our opportunity is getting smaller. But we have a sturgeon season on Black Lake. Trash fish. I can't get what I say called trash fish because that's an old term now.
Yeah, I get
rough
you.
Fish,
yep.
Carp, dogfish, bullheads, and some of the bullheads, catfish do give you opportunities, for good eating. Some of them are pretty good if you want to clean them.
Yeah, but it's pike. Pike are, when we talk about spearing, you're pike spearing. That's what we're talking about.
Right, majority of the time.
How do you, now, are there size limits on what you can spear?
Yeah, most lakes in Michigan, we have, 24-inch minimum. There's no size in the lakes, which I have videos on my YouTube and online, try to educate people. We go to a lot of no size limit, which most of them, you're allowed, 5 under 24 or 124 or bigger. Them are a great way to get started because you can, spear a few fish, kind of see what they look like when they come out of the hole, because you'd be surprised. They look really big. You get them up. You hear a lot of perch guys, oh, man, I'm seeing monster pike down here. And then when you see the pike they're getting, they're barely legal. They're not as big as they think when you pull them off.
Well, and that was kind of my question. How do you judge the size of a fish? Because there is no catch and release. You throw a spear, you're taking that fish.
Yeah, and obviously if you make a mistake, technically DNR says illegal, you have to release it, but this fish ain't going to make it. You don't want to do that. If you're doing something like that and it's illegal, you're probably going to get fined if the DNR looks in your hole and there's a fish down there laying there. So you want to make sure you don't throw unless you know. That's what we always say. It's like anything else. So what we do is you take a decoy. If you know the size of your decoy is 10 inches, you try to look for something maybe close to 3 times that size. So you're looking at maybe 26, 27, not that 24-inch mark. And then same as we set our decoy lines at times 24 inches apart. You can size them up between decoys and get a pretty accurate, measurement that way. But most guys who spear at consistent basins, we can pretty much tell by looking at them, the fish, the head will get round, and we always call it shoulders. They get a little fatter behind the head, behind the gill plates. They're not pointed, nose isn't real sharp. They kind of change looks when they get to that 24-inch mark. 26, they really start changing. And they change looks again when they get about 40. They get that flat across the back I talked about, and then they get a real big shovel head.
Yeah, and those are the fish that get you going.
Yeah, and believe me, you have no doubt when you see a 40 inch or something like 40 inches.
Now, you talk about throwing a spear, but is it actually throwing it, or are you just gliding it, or what's that process?
It's a guided throw. If you watch, my dad's been watching videos online lately. He discovered YouTube. And he laughs at some of the stuff he sees. And, guys will throw from above the water or drag their spear, make noise. But you want to glide that head and get the whole head in so you don't make any splashes. Get as close to the fish as you can, and it's like shooting pool. You kind of just guide it and let it go. But you're giving a little bit of force, but you're not just angry plumber just slamming it in the water. You want to have, guided throw, nice and smooth. Release it, make sure your line doesn't hook on your feet, your line isn't froze with the ice, and just let it hit the fish and go to the bottom.
And that spear is attached to a line, so you've got a way to retrieve the spear and the fish.
Yes, you want to use paracord. Most guys use 550 nowadays. My sturgeon spear, I've got 750 non-stretch, like a white floating paracord, and that works really well. Because when you're spearing, we spear sturgeon, Little Winnebago, Wisconsin, it's deep with a mucky bottom, and the spear is heavy. And if you use a stretch line, it feels like your spear is not coming back. So the non-stretch is nice, too, because you can pick it up, and you don't feel any, bungee in the cord kind of, stretching.
Jason, I've got a lot more I'd love to talk to you about. Can I offer you this coveted third segment? Can you give me a few more minutes?
Yeah, I can do that.
Excellent. We're talking with Jason Michalski, who's the president of the Michigan Darkhouse Anglers. Their website is mi-darkhouse.org, mi-darkhouse.org. You can also, as Jason said, learn a lot about spearing on YouTube, but also, as Jason said, make sure that the people... See, that's the thing about YouTube. YouTube is great. You can learn anything about anything on YouTube, but you want to make sure the people you're learning from actually know what they're doing, and that can be some... kind of the challenge sometimes. So we will wrap up our conversation with Jason Michalski after the break here. Then we will wrap up the hour with this week's Ask Avery question. It's an interesting question. Why does the DNR make more tags available to hunters than we actually have numbers of deer in the state? I think that's an excellent question. Samantha Courtney, a wildlife biologist for the DNR, will be along to answer that. And then in our third hour, wintertime predator hunting with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors, and we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up yet this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And we can jump back to the other side of the state. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Versa Skins, Michigan-based family-owned Versa Skins. Paul Perrone, the owner of that company, has come up with a great idea. He said, look, why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern? You can go from blaze orange to snow camo to, whatever you need. You follow the seasons. And it takes literally less than 2 minutes, actually about a minute, to snap on and zip on an outer shell. If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, Versus Skins can help you out there. If you are a saddle hunter, Versus Skins makes jackets specifically for saddle hunting. You can find them online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. They're also on Amazon. Go to amazon.com and do a search for Versus Skins brand. Versus Skins, just change your skin for the season you're in. While you are online, if you go over to the website, mi-darkhouse.org, that's the main website of the Michigan Darkhouse Anglers, the Pike Spearing people. Jason Michalski is the president of that group. Jason, a few more questions I want to ask you. How deep of water do you spear then? I would imagine there's a limit to the depth, just logistically, pragmatically, right?
Yeah. It's kind of bound to your spear, I would say. If you're spearing like Saginaw Bay, most of your waters now. A few years ago, we had 5-6 foot of water was pretty good. Now you're lucky in some of the good areas get to 3 foot. So it really doesn't matter as much there in 3 foot. You can use pretty much any spear, kind of pin them to the bottom. When you start getting out deeper, it's going to depend on your spear. It's got to be aerodynamic. It can't plane flat areas, like the large laser cut ones and different things. They'll plane out. Wood handle topper helps because it floats up, kind of like fletching on an arrow. It'll keep your spear straighter. The old timers used to say, basically, your point blank range was double what your spear handle is. So if you had a 6 foot spear, point blank range was like 12 foot. I've got one custom spear I use a lot. It has an extension. It's 9 foot. So my point blank range on that one, would be 18 feet, and it weighs 16 pounds.
Ooh.
And I've taken fish 20 foot down with it.
20
it depends
feet.
on your skill level and what you can see.
Yeah, that's amazing, because at 20 feet, there's a lot of time for that fish to move, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I mean, a 9 foot spear helps because you can get it right down there and throw it. But there's still a lot of time, and that's the problem. I've speared that deep of water, and I have buddies that will take you out there and say, hey, they can show you a big fish every day in 30 foot of water, but you're never going to be able to hit it. You throw it with a standard spear, those fish feel that come on their lateral line, and they can roll out of the way. Spear is not as easy as people say. You hear, some guys say it's not sporting or whatever, but you're not mobile. You're stuck in one spot. The fish come in. Sometimes, no matter what you do, those fish are so spooky you can't get a throw. As soon as you touch the water, they're gone. But there's a lot of factors that play into it, just like bow hunting.
So when a pike comes in, is he looking up, or is the goal to have him be him or her concentrating on that decoy ahead of him, and they're not looking up? They're not looking at the predator from above.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's why I use the decoy or the attractant, or a lot of guys love the golf ball teasers that spin, because you get their eyesight just focused on that, and they know when a decoy, you can tell, they know a fake decoy's fake or something different, because they'll come in, you can see them sucking air, they're smelling, looking at it, and then sometimes they'll take it and they'll just take their mouth and they'll bump it or chew on it, trying to figure out what it is. You want their focus off of you. It's like using a decoy for turkeys. You want that focus off of you. You want it on something else, so you can make that little bit of movement you need to do to get the throw out.
Why not use a live, say, sucker as bait then? Live sucker, big minnow.
That is an option. A lot of guys do that. They go up to, I've heard guys, go up to, 2 foot long suckers, or I've heard 2 foot long trout before. Guys, you catch them blades that have trout, and they catch them live in the waters and use them. But they use suckers a lot of times a foot to 16 inches, and that is an option. For me personally, and a lot of guys notice that the fish tend to come in faster, hammer them, but there are days, maybe that would outproduce. But I don't think I've used a live decoy in probably 10 years, and I've never looked back. They just seem to come in a little slower sometimes. You got a little more options, if that's not what they want that day.
I just think, spending a cold winter afternoon in a dark house, looking through the ice, even on a day if you don't get to throw at a big fish, you're still going to see things coming through that hole you wouldn't see otherwise, I think, right?
Right. Yeah, there's some neat things. I've seen beaver swim through. You see muskrat, all kinds of different fish. I've been on waters. You have lake trout. I've seen brown trout, rainbow trout, perch. And you can, some states are not allowed to fish from a spear hole, which is weird as that sounds. But in Michigan, you can, and the spear don't count as a line. So you can still run. If you want to tip up fish, that's your option. if you want to fish bluegill and perch, you can. I've caught limits of bluegill and perch while spearing. I mean, you can do that. You have all them options and still be able to have a spear in there and throw it.
Hey, why not maximize your time, increase your odds? Jason, I appreciate that. Jason Michalski of the Michigan Dark House Anglers, mi-darkhouse.org. I will wish you cold weather, good ice, and a great season coming up. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Mike.
Again, Jason Michalski of the Michigan Dark House Anglers. We'll take a break. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery question. It was sent in by a listener. I think it's one of the best questions we've had in a long time. And Samantha Courtney, the DNR wildlife biologist, will be along with us to answer that. And we'll wrap up the show with Randy Budde coming up in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT, 600 AM, 93.5 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoors men and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. You know this by now, but I will remind you the best way to get these questions to me is to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. It can be a question you want me to answer directly or something you would like me to pass along. This week, Nick Warziniak. And Nick, if I mispronounced your last name, I apologize. But Nick, who actually sends me an email from my hometown of Cedar Springs, grew up there, the fields, the farms, the woodlots of Cedar Springs. Nick says, all right, here's my question for you. He says, I don't know if this has been asked yet, but why does the DNR allow more deer tags than they estimate the total number to be in the entire state? And he gives the numbers. And Nick, I got to be honest, this is one of the best questions anybody has ever sent me for the Ask Avery segment. Now, I obviously cannot answer this myself, but Samantha Courtney, who is a deer biologist for the Michigan DNR, is on the Outdoor Magazine phone line with us, and she says she can answer it. Samantha Courtney, welcome to the Outdoor Magazine show. I appreciate your time. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Well, listen, it is a real pleasure. I had sent you this question ahead of time so you know what it is, and it is a great question, isn't it?
Oh, it's an incredible question. I was very impressed when you sent it to me.
So what's the answer? Why allow more deer tags than there is deer? You want to wipe out the deer herd in just one season?
Oh, absolutely not. There's a couple of things to get at with this question. I know that there's been out there some estimates of there being like 2 million deer in Michigan, and I'm really not sure where that number ever came from. We can't confirm it's an accurate number, and we really don't currently do any true population estimates. It's possible that number's close, but we don't really have a way to say it's accurate or a way to defend that number. So when it comes to tag allocation, we have a really long historical data set that shows us the trends of hunter success, but also harvest patterns. So we make management recommendations based on these trends. And overall, antlerless deer harvest in Michigan is not very high, and antlerless deer are what drive population numbers. So I think around like 30% of hunters tend to purchase an antlerless license, and of those people that do, they only purchase one. And about 92% of hunters overall harvest one deer, and only 1% or less harvest 4 or more. So we're really not harvesting, a huge percentage of antlerless deer, especially. Majority of folks who buy a license harvest their buck, and then they're done for the year. So that lack of antlerless harvest doesn't really put a dent in the population. So the number of tags is higher to allow folks who really want to manage their local deer herd the ability to do so. But another factor is that hunters tend to be self-limiting in their harvest decisions. So as deer populations decrease, as you can expect, hunter effort has to increase. But what's interesting is when you have really high deer populations, you could cut that population in half, but the hunting effort won't increase simply because of how many deer there are on the landscape. But at lower populations, that effort could increase, which is why hunters tend to self-limit. So because the effort is too great for the few deer that are available. So you kind of have to think about those hunter success rates, how many they're actually purchasing, those tags, and the overall effort. So
boy, there's a lot. There's a lot going on there. A lot going on in what you just said. So let me just see if I can make sure I understand.
Sure.
Maybe there's not 2 million deer in the state. Whatever the number is, the way the tag system is structured, that based on past experience, you're not worried about hunters wiping out the deer population in our state in just 1 or 2 seasons.
No, absolutely not. I mean, we know hunter numbers are declining, and even if you take the number of hunters that we have, you could offer hunters 50 tags, and they still won't fill them all. They're only going to shoot 1 or 2 deer, so we're really not worried about it.
Gotcha. And in fact, you would like us, as deer hunters, you would like us to shoot more does, right?
Yes. Right now, our antlerless harvest has been stable or declined in the state, while buck harvest has remained stable. So we really want to try and keep, our counties either in stability or reduction mode. And to do that, the best option is antlerless harvest.
Yeah. And this is an interesting thing that we don't have time to get into now, but, with hunter numbers declining, boy, we don't want to be forced into a situation where the DNR has to find an alternate method of managing deer, right? Hunters are our number one option, and we want to keep it that way.
Yes, absolutely. Hunters are critical in the management. So if we lose our hunters, we're in a bad spot that we really don't want to be in.
I got you. Samantha Courtney from the DNR, I appreciate that. Michigan.gov/DNR. Thank you for your time. And thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org, securitycu.org. And Nick Warziniak, hey, appreciate the email. He sent me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's what keeps this segment alive. Keep an eye on the folks at Cedar Springs for me. You got to watch those guys. Sometimes they get out of control. All right, we'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our third and final hour, we're talking predator hunting with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors, some wintertime coyote hunting, and, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, the first show in 2025. How does that happen? How does time fly by so fast? I don't know the answer to that. But I will tell you this. Every year I'm on this earth, time seems to fly by faster. So it seems to me that one of our goals should be to try to take advantage of that time, to make the most out of that time. Rather than just sit back and let time go by and life go by, let's try to do something about it. Let's try to enjoy this time that is flying by as quickly as possible. Let's try to enjoy that as much as we humanly can. All right, I think that's a good idea. Randy Budde is a guy I love to talk with here on the show because he's a guy who is out there making things happen. He doesn't just sit back and watch life go by. He's out there and he's hunting as much as he can. He's taking advantage of these opportunities as much as he can. He's hunting with his family, with his buddies, and I enjoy that. Randy, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Doing good, Mike. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for a new year, and I just I love talking with guys like you, Randy, because you're out there, you're making it happen, and you've got such a wealth of knowledge. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Mike.
Before we get into the topic at hand, predator hunting here during the wintertime, let's go back here a little bit. Let's look at your fall season. I know you're a big bear hunter. How did that go for you this year?
Well, I didn't get a permit this year. It takes, where I go for the last season, you can get one about every other year, but I went and baited for my grandson and my daughter and son-in-law. Well, actually, two of my grandsons. The one grandson's 9, the other one's 12. And the bears weren't hitting the baits all that great, but they were hitting them. The two grandsons, my 12-year-old grandson, he killed an average-sized bear, and then my 9-year-old grandson, he's a little scared of the bang of the rifle, and so he seen a bear, but he was afraid to shoot because of the bang of the rifle, and so he didn't shoot at it. But I think we've gotten that taken care of. Since then, I bought a suppressor, and he's all right with that. So he actually killed a buck during the regular rifle season, and he killed a doe. So
nice.
So hopefully the next bear permit he gets, he'll kill a bear. And then my daughter and my son-in-law, they seen bears, but it just didn't work out.
Well, this is all part of the thing, right? You talk about your grandson maybe being a little bit gun shy. You worked him through it. This is all part of this experience of hunting, and it's all part of the process, right?
Yep, it's part of it. I think everybody had a good time anyway, so it was a success. And then our rifle season for the deer, that turned out pretty good. My daughter, she seen quite a few bucks, but nothing she wanted to shoot, so she didn't get one. And my oldest grandson, Easton, he killed a buck during rifle season. He killed one during youth season, and he killed one during the rifle season. So we all had a pretty successful hunt. So now it's time to kind of change things around, start chasing coyotes a little bit.
So there's venison in the booty freezers.
Yeah, we got all the venison we want. I try to do my part on thinning down the doe herd. Here in the Lower Peninsula, in most places we have overabundance of does, so I try to take care of them. I give a lot of the deer away to people that want it. So
yeah, good for you, Randy. I appreciate that. And now you say it's time to kind of make this transition to look at predator hunting. How did you get started in coyote hunting? Is this something you've been doing forever?
Yeah, I've done it for a long time. At first, I don't really know what year I started. Just going occasionally, in the daytime. And actually, when I started, there wasn't hardly no coyotes around, but I started with fox, and then we started getting more and more coyotes. And then when the DNR made it legal to hunt with center fires after dark, well, I started nighttime hunting just a little bit before that with a rim fire, but then it was only a year or two and they made it legal for center fires, and then I got pretty serious about it. Of course, then when I got serious about it, my success went way up. So
well, sure.
Now I'm getting older. I'm not going as much. Like this last year, I only killed 60 coyotes.
Hold on, you only took 60 coyotes?
Yeah, that's it. Well, I used to be there for a long time. I'd kill over 100 a year. And, I kind of peaked at 157 or 158, but getting close to that 70 mark. So another year I'll be hitting 70. So I'm slowing down on it a little bit. It seems kind of nicer to go to bed than stand out there in the field after dark, but it's still fun.
Well, I can appreciate where you're at in life, Randy. It's kind of a, you look back on your hunting or fishing or whatever it is, your passions, and how they kind of develop over the years. It's kind of fun to look back and see how kind of, we're really, really hardcore for a while, and then maybe we step back, and maybe at one point we just want to teach others how to do it.
Yep. Yeah. I like to see my grandson, my 12-year-old grandson. He's went coyote hunting with me a few times. He's killed a few coyotes, so it's fun to see him get them.
You talk about well, and listen, there's a little bit of a delay, so I apologize for talking over you. Forgive me for that. But let's go back. You say you kind of got started in predator hunting fox. Do you still fox hunt?
Yeah, if I see them and it's during season, I'll usually shoot them. So yeah, I still fox hunt. I don't just go after fox, but if I call one in when I'm coyote hunting, I'll take it if it's in season.
So are the two similar, or is it two different ball games?
No, it's pretty much exact for me. It's pretty much exact. Call them exactly the same. It's funny. You'll get into pockets where there's quite a few fox around, and then other areas there don't seem to be none around. I have killed coyotes and fox right on the same set.
What about bobcat?
Well, you have to hunt them in the daytime, but yeah, we call them in sometimes after dark. Which the bobcat season in my areas, that starts the 1st through the 20th. So I'll probably be going after them a little bit. I got a friend that wants me to take them out and get them, but they're pretty hard to come by hunting them in the daytime.
Yeah. So for you, your sweet spot these days would be coyote hunting after dark with a center fire.
Yep. That's pretty much all I ever do anymore. You can get them in the daylight, but it's just a lot harder. It's a lot harder to hide, and I move around a lot, so they see me pretty easy. So when I go out there in the dark, I can go out and stand. I'll go on a real dark night. I don't like it when there's moonlight out, but I'll go out there and stand in the middle of the field, and I don't have to hold still. They don't see me. So
they can't. So are you hunting with thermal or lights, or what's your rig? What's your setup?
Yep, I use thermal. I have a handheld thermal that I scan the field with, and then I have a thermal scope on the rifle that I shoot with. My handheld thermal that gets the most use, because I pretty much stand out there and I'm scanning the whole field. I'm scanning 360 degrees around me, and I'll usually try to get in the middle of a pretty good sized field. It's amazing. You can get in the middle of a 40-acre field, and them things can sneak up on you sometimes.
So can they not see as well after dark? How do they hunt after dark then?
I think mostly with their nose. They evidently can see some, but when you're out there 150 yards on a good dark night, they can't see you. Or if they do, they don't know what you are. So evidently they don't see real good after dark either. And then I think a lot of times when you're calling, you really want to watch your downwind side, because they come downwind, and I don't think they're doing that to catch you. I think they're trying to get downwind so they can smell what's making that noise and zero right in on it.
Huh. Hang tight, Randy. We got to take a break here. We're talking with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. You can find these guys on Facebook. Randy's a hardcore hunter. What do you say? At his peak, 150 some coyotes in 1 year. That's crazy. A lot of coyote hunters won't take 150 coyotes in their entire life. So that's pretty cool that Randy is that good. And pretty cool that he will share that information with us right here this week on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across this great state of Michigan, including WILS in Lansing. That's 1320 AM. In Manistee, you can hear us on WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can also hear us, well, let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Manistee, WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. Right now, we're talking with Randy Budde, a guy who's been hunting predators here in Michigan for a long time. Randy, I still can't get over the fact that you say that in your prime, when you were doing this hardcore, you took more than 150 coyotes. That's just absolutely crazy. How did you do that? I mean, were you out there every night? Were you multiple sets? Or, you know, what did it look like?
Yeah, I'd usually hunt, I don't know, 3-4 times a week. And I'm retired. I've been retired almost 10 years now, so I don't got to get up early to go to work. So I'd make, I don't know, usually 3 to 6 stands a night, and just being out there. You know, some nights you wouldn't kill any, and then other nights you might kill 6. I've killed as many as 9 in one night. Wow. And so it just depends on the night. So when you start killing, if you kill, say, 4 to 9 a night, you know, then they start adding up pretty fast. When I was hunting a lot, I'd kill usually over 100, 120 some a year, but then the one year I killed 157 or 158, and now I got a little problem with my heel there with that Achilles, and that really slowed me down. And so, like last year, I only killed 60, but
that's still a lot of coyotes, Randy.
Yeah, it's quite a few, but it didn't seem like it after when you normally kill over 100. But,
yeah.
They shortened our season too. You know, they shut us down for 3 months, so that made a difference.
Yeah, and that's a story in itself. But man, I'll veer off course here a little bit. I will tell you this: when the NRC did that, I completely lost faith in that group. Maybe not as individuals, as people, but as a group itself, when they did that, because of the way I look at it, public pressure rather than sound scientific wildlife management, I thought that's a big mistake. And they took some grief over that, didn't they?
They did, and there's a couple of lawsuits against them for that.
Yeah.
You know, I never paid a lot of attention, but when I heard they were talking about closing the season down, I started watching their meetings on the MUCC page, and I didn't have a warm fuzzy feeling about them. They don't even know, they make the rules, but yet they don't even know the rules that they made. I was watching on some of the deer hunting stuff, and they don't even know what the rules are, and they're the ones that made them. So I don't think most of them people are even hunters. I think there's a few of them fishermen, and the rest of them, I don't think even hunt or fish.
It's pretty disappointing. If we had guys like you who have the knowledge that you do, not that you want to be a commissioner, I don't think, but if they had the knowledge that you do, they'd look at things differently. But let me ask you this, Randy. There's going to be people who are going to hear this and say, "Man, why did he kill this many coyotes? What's the reason?" What is your reason for doing it? Is it just fun? Is it population management, or what is it, Randy?
Yeah, it's both. I love to hunt. You know, I'm like you, Mike. I love to hunt, and that's pretty much hunting and rifle shooting is pretty much that's what I do. You know, I'm retired, and them are my hobbies, and then too, I do it for predator control because a lot of people don't like them predators around their house and stuff. So I do it for them, and I guess the biggest reason I do it is just because I love to hunt. It's something to hunt, and it's something that I'm not going to tag out on. I can keep hunting and enjoy doing what I do. How
has your setup changed over the years from daylight hunting, with probably a 22 mag or whatever it was to what you're chasing them with these days. There's been a lot of evolution, hasn't there?
Well, especially in the nighttime, and in the daytime, we've always been able to use rifles in the daylight. So when I hunted them in the daylight before, I always used a rifle. It varied from different things. I'm kind of a gun nut, so. But now with the nighttime, when I started, I used a rimfire and just a red light, and was not all that productive at it, but I did kill some coyotes with it. But then they made it legal for center fire, and then I started with a night vision scope on AR-15 223, and I had great success with the night vision scope, but then I ended up buying a thermal scanner, a handheld thermal, and that with the night vision scope that worked really good. I believe I was killing about 80 a year using that setup. The thermal scanner that was a game changer. And my rifles I've upgraded from a 223, and I went to a 6.5 Grendel, and then I went to 224 Valkyrie, and now I use it's a 6.8 SBC cartridge neck down to 6mm, and that's an AR-15. So that's my primary coyote gun now, and it has a Pulsar Trail 2 thermal on it.
Pretty high-tech stuff, Randy.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with the newer thermals. The thermals have got cheaper, and there's a lot more models. It used to be there was Pulsar or ATN, and that was it. But now they're making a whole bunch of different kinds, and I think they're a lot cheaper than what they used to be.
When you look out in a field after dark on a real dark night like you like, and you scan this field with this thermal, what do you see? Do you see every critter that's out there? And is it obvious the different types of critters? Is it easy to tell a coyote from a deer, for example?
Not at first. Not when you're not used to a thermal. No, that's what's kind of nice about somebody new. I would not recommend somebody new to nighttime hunting buy a thermal scope and buy a thermal scanner and go out there coyote hunting, because you're probably gonna shoot some stuff you shouldn't be shooting.
Yeah.
A good setup for somebody new would be a thermal scanner and a night vision scope. The night vision scope, you won't be able to see the distance that we can see with a thermal, but when you spot that animal with your handheld, and then you can go to your night vision scope and you can positively identify what that animal is. And then after a year or two of practice, you'll start to realize what different animals look like in that thermal. Like between a fox and a coyote and a thermal, it can be really hard to tell them until you get used to it, and then you just know, well, hey, that's a fox, it's out of season. Or a bobcat, at first with a thermal, it can be hard to tell the bobcat from a fox or a coyote. But after you get used to looking at them animals, it's obvious to you then.
And the night vision then is just taking whatever ambient light is out there and using that and magnifying that. Is that how that works?
It is, but most of the night vision scopes are these digital ones that people use now, and most of the time, unless it's a full moon, you'll need a infrared light. They look just like a flashlight, and they clamp on your gun. When you shine the light across the field with your naked eye, you can't see it, but when you look through that night vision scope, it looks like somebody's shining a spotlight out across that field.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Is most of your hunting, Randy, is it down here in the lower?
Yes. Yep. I like up there bear hunting. It used to be I'd go out coyote hunting some, but I usually just call in wolves up there anymore, so usually don't even bother going.
If I remember right, a couple of years ago, you guys got some video Is it obvious? Like, say you're up there hunting in the Ute where you might run into wolves. Is it obvious the difference between coyotes and wolves when you're looking at them through your high-tech gear?
If they're when you first start seeing the wolves, it's not that obvious. After you've seen enough of them through the thermal, it's fairly obvious, especially if they're within 100 yards or so. When they're a long ways away, it can be a little bit hard, but when they get in closer, it gets to be a lot more obvious by the way they move and stuff. You know, you can't tell the size difference through that thermal, because, well, just the way they are, you can't really tell the size difference.
Is that a little intimidating when you call in a pack of wolves? Because, I mean, yes, you can protect yourself, but you can't shoot a wolf. So, I mean, what's that experience like?
Yeah, I don't know. It don't bother me any. Some people are a little afraid to be around wolves or bears and stuff, but I guess I've spent enough time out there in the woods and hunted that stuff long enough that it don't really bother me.
Yeah, I got you. Yep.
I'd be a little bit worried about shooting a wolf, but as far as being afraid of the animals, I'm not really afraid of them at all.
Hey, maybe sometime we will have the opportunity to actually have a wolf season here and do what needs to be done. Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, that'd be great. If they do, I hope they make it so you can nighttime hunt, because they're easy. In my experience, they're easy to call in. You can call. I've called in. I guess I've called in one badger down here, and I've called in 3 bear down here. So you don't never know what you're going to call in.
That's probably part of the fun, Randy. Listen, hey, I got to let you go. I always enjoy talking with you. You're an interesting guy with a wealth of knowledge, and I'll wish you a wonderful season, and I'll check in with you again soon.
All right. Well, nice talking to you, Mike.
Pleasure's mine, Randy. Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. You can find these guys on Facebook. This guy's probably responsible for taking more predators out of the Michigan population than most anybody I know, that's for sure. We'll take a break here. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about this concept of predator hunting and maybe bears and wolves and all this good stuff. And then wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar is standing by in the wings. He wants to come back to us with I think he's got a rabbit recipe this week, and his rabbit recipes are always very popular. That's coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. You can hear us the other side of the state, WPHM, Port Huron, 1380 AM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. Although, to get in here today, I had to just about take a boat to get from my Garber Chevy truck into the front door, because we had a snow melt, but then a bunch of rain. My feet are still wet. I didn't think I was going to have to wear boots to get in here today, but I did. But that's all right. I'll dry them out on the way home. I'm in here with Charlie Rude. Charlie, appreciate you very much, buddy. And because, there were people who did show up earlier, and they saw the flooded parking lot, and they said, we love Charlie, but we're not bringing our family out here to chant Charlie, Charlie, in a flooded parking lot. But they'll be back next week. Although Jonathan will probably be back next week, right? Okay, so it'll be a couple weeks before Charlie's back in here. Anyway, I appreciate Charlie. I appreciate Jonathan. These guys helped me out to just so much that I can't even say it. But I will tell you this. I also appreciate you. Yeah, look, if these guys help me get the show together, they help me, get it uploaded and such. I do part of it myself as well. But if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do it. So you are the ultimate. You, as the listener of this radio show or podcast, you are the ones I really need to thank. I do want to follow up a little bit on my conversation with Randy Budde. I love Randy. He is just a wonderful guy, and he's very, very good at what he does. You might say 150 coyotes. This guy took 150 coyotes. Are there that many around? Yes, there are. See, this is the whole thing. Predator hunting is an interesting niche in the hunting world these days, because it's the predator hunters who are really the ones who are under attack from the anti-hunting group. Because for the most part, you don't eat predators, right? So that's something that sticks in the craw of some people. And the fact that you can take so many of them, there's no limit on it. But if we didn't have predator hunters in our state today, we would be absolutely overrun with predators, especially coyotes. I posted a video. It's been a few weeks now, though. A few weeks ago now, that my buddy Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer, sent me from the UP. Johnny found a doe along the side of the road that had been attacked by a pack of coyotes. I said, Johnny, are you sure it wasn't wolves? Because he's up there in wolf country. And he said, no, he's sure. Johnny knows wolves. He knows how wolves react to prey, and he knows wolf tracks. And he said these were very obviously coyote tracks. Now, the coyotes, plural, had already killed the fawn. The fawn was off several yards off the roadway. People said, well, this is fake. This is fake video. It wasn't fake. Unfortunately, it was real video. It was real video of a live doe standing on the side of the road whose hindquarters had been eaten by a pack of coyotes. Is this the way this is Mother Nature at work, right? I posted this because I wanted to remind people that Mother Nature is not like a Disney movie. Mother Nature can be cruel. Very cruel, right? Coyotes have to eat too, right? But you don't want to see a live doe standing on the side of the road, partially eaten with her dead fawn out there, already gone. Now, I know this is hard for some people to even hear about, but this is Mother Nature. This is how things work. Fortunately, now see, Johnny drives a plow truck. He can't have a gun in the truck, so he couldn't put that doe down. Somebody drove along there, and they had a gun with them, and they put the doe down to help end her suffering. But she did suffer a lot in the meantime. But this is why we have to have predator hunts, to help control that population. When Randy Budde talked about calling in a badger, holy cow. I have seen badger holes here in Michigan. I have yet to see a badger in Michigan. He also talked about calling in bears. This is interesting, too, because I know a lot of people who are very much afraid of bears. And they think that because they're deer hunting in bear country, they have to be concerned about it. You don't. You don't. You don't have to worry about being attacked by a Michigan bear. Has it happened? Yes. Will it happen to you? No. It's not going to happen. A black bear is more afraid of you than you are of them. I think it's cool to be around black bears. I'm not afraid of black bears at all because they're not going to bother you. We also talked about, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have a wolf hunt in Michigan again? And don't get mad at the DNR saying, oh, the DNR won't let us have a wolf hunt. It's not the DNR's call. It's the feds. It's our friends, the anti-hunters, who get so upset because people like Randy are out there predator hunting, coyote hunting, right? It's the predator hunters, it's the coyote hunters who are in the crosshairs, pun intended, of the anti-hunters. But we need the predator hunters to keep that population down. We also need, in my opinion, a wolf hunt in Michigan to address that population and to instill the fear of man in the wolves that are in the Upper Peninsula. That's the problem with our UP wolves. They have no fear because they haven't been hunted. We need a wolf hunt. Next time around, when we have a wolf hunt, we need to allow the trappers to get at them. We need to allow these predator guys at them, and we need to allow the houndsmen to get after him too. We didn't reach our goal last time because we were very restrictive on who was allowed to target those wolves. Well, this time around, if we open it up, if we get a hunt and we open it up to the right people, we'll reach that goal. Got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. And I think Dave has another rabbit recipe for us. I know you love his rabbit recipes because they're so good and so popular. That's coming up after the break. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine, the first outdoor magazine radio show of 2025. How exciting is that? How cool is that? You know, I never would have believed years and years ago when wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar and I were working on the Outdoor Magazine television show that in the year 2025 we'd still be working together. We'd still be talking about cooking wild game, but we are. And here we are once again with wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar. David, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well. You know, I would have never thought it either back in the 90s, maybe, you know.
Oh, I know it. It's funny how time flies, literally, how life passes us by and takes us on this journey. But this journey that you and I have been on has been wonderful, David, and I appreciate it. Thank you, my friend.
I think so, too. I think it's just been outrageous, to tell you the honest truth. To be involved with you on this and the TV show and then the radio show and continuing with the radio show, it's just been a blessing.
It has been a blessing. How about blessing us with a recipe?
Yeah, we got on page 154. Now we'll do a rabbit recipe. You could use partridge with this, or you could actually use wild turkey breast for this also. So you need about, if you're going to use just the loins of rabbit, you're going to need about 8 ounces per person. That might take out actually up to, say, 4 or 5 rabbits. But if you're going to use whole rabbits, you're going to probably cut 2 to 3 of them up, cut them by 8, you know, and then this will give you about 4 portions. So you need a medium onion diced up fine, 1 to 3 cloves of garlic diced fine, whatever your family likes to enjoy garlic, or even omit it if you wanted to. You need a jar of chicken gravy, a couple ounces of heavy cream, a pint of raspberries, fresh or frozen. Fresh would be nice. And you want to save a couple out for garnishment around the side of the plate when you're dishing this up for your guests. 2 to 3 ounces of razzmatazz schnapps. It's a raspberry-flavored liquor made by De Kuyper. And it is flavorful, I'm telling you what. So you need about a 6-ounce package of mushrooms sliced thin, a little bit of oil to saute with, and some flour to dredge it in. If you're going to use whole rabbits, you want to trim the fat and the silver away from them, and make sure you get any shot out of it if you're using a shotgun, and trim away any of the meat if you're using a 22 that's bloodied. And then if you're using just the loins, you want to pound between saran wrap down to about a half inch thick, actually, because you don't want it to pucker up when you're sauteing this. So you're going to dredge either the whole pieces of rabbit meat or the loins and shake off of the excess. And in a real nice hot pan, you want to add a small amount of olive oil and brown the meat on all sides. Take it out if you're going to have more than just the loins. Saute it up in different batches so you're not going to crowd it too much, so you can actually work with it nicely. And if you're using the whole rabbit, you want to take the meat out, put it in an oven-proof casserole, and then with a little bit more of olive oil, you can saute the onions and the garlic for just a little while, just to break the flavor loose, because if you're going to use the whole rabbit, you're going to bake it about an hour, hour and a quarter, depending on how old the rabbits are. And so you can flambe this away from your stove hood, add the liquor, gravy, heating over high heat to reduce down by about a half volume. We want to concentrate a lot of this flavor. You can add the cream and the mushrooms, cook it just a little minute more, maybe 2 minutes. And during the last 30 seconds of cooking, if you're using the loins, you want to add the raspberries and carefully stirring it so you don't break up the raspberries too much. When they're cooking like this, they're really tender. And if you're going to use the whole rabbit, you want to save the raspberries out till the last 10 minutes of baking before it's done. So it's just gently stir it if you're putting the raspberries in, so you don't want to lose their firm consistency. And I think a great way to serve this would be over rice or buttered noodles or just plain. But I'm telling you what, we used to sell this like crazy at the restaurant. We used to be able to buy rabbit, loins through the wild game purveyor, and we sold this for years, and people loved it.
David, I got to ask you too. We get a lot of requests from people saying, "Hey, I want to buy Dixie Dave's cookbook." What's the answer to that question?
Well, unfortunately, we don't sell it anymore, but you can go online and buy it on the aftermarket. There's a lot of people selling them. I've had numerous people tell me they were able to buy it. Might be a little stained up or something, but at least you get the recipes.
All right, David, I appreciate that. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Happy New Year to you, David, and we'll talk again next week.
You too, Michael, and all your listeners.
Appreciate that very much. Speaking of that, I'm just texting back and forth with Mr. AnglerQuest, Brad Dupuis, and we might be doing our next Wednesday night live from the Ultimate Fishing Show in Novi. If Brad can get one of his Angler Quests in there Wednesday night before the show, we might be doing that, so keep an ear out for that. My name is Mike Avery. The show is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I also do a lot of stuff on social media, including those big Wednesday night live shows, and maybe this one coming up will be at the Ultimate Fishing Show in Detroit. If not, we'll be somewhere else as well. All right, my friends, Happy New Year to you. Welcome to 2025. I hope it's a wonderful year for you. It's going to be for me. I can tell you that. We're going to do everything possible to make it happen. My wish for you is the same. We'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.